The stellar cartography deck aboard the UES Pathfinder hummed with quiet energy as Captain Sarah Chen studied the holographic display before her. Countless stars sparkled in the three-dimensional projection, but her attention was fixed on an anomalous energy signature at the edge of unexplored space. The massive exploration vessel had been tracking it for 3 days now, and something about the pattern seemed deliberately artificial. "Dr. Patel, what's your assessment?" she asked, turning to the ship's chief xenophysicist. Raj Patel manipulated the hologram with practiced gestures, zooming in on the energy pattern. "It's definitely not natural, Captain. The quantum fluctuations are too regular, too precise. Whatever's generating this, it's advanced technology, possibly a form of FTL communication we haven't encountered before." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. Humanity had been exploring deep space for nearly 50 years now, but they had yet to encounter another spacefaring civilization. There were ruins, artifacts, and plenty of evidence that they weren't alone in the galaxy, but no active civilizations. This could change everything. Bridge to Captain Chen. The comm system crackled to life. "Go ahead." "Ma'am, we're picking up multiple vessels dropping out of FTL. They're on an intercept course." Sarah was already moving. "Sound General Quarters. I'm on my way." The Pathfinder's corridors buzzed with controlled activity as crew members rushed to their stations. When Sarah reached the bridge, the tactical display showed 5 ships of unknown configuration approaching their position. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels with forward-swept wings and what appeared to be heavy weaponry. "First Contact Protocol Alpha is in effect," Sarah announced, taking her command chair. "Open all standard greeting channels and begin broadcasting the first contact package." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Humanity had prepared extensively for this moment, developing protocols and procedures based on countless simulations and theoretical scenarios. The first contact package contained basic mathematical sequences, visual representations of peaceful intent, and simple linguistic patterns designed to establish communication. The response came almost immediately, but not in the form they expected. A harsh, guttural language filled the bridge speakers, accompanied by visual data that displayed a massive empire spanning hundreds of star systems. The translation matrix worked furiously, and within moments, broken phrases began emerging. "Submit to the authority of the Kryvax Dominion. Resistance will result in immediate termination. Inferior species will be processed and categorized." Sarah's jaw tightened. Of course, their first contact would be with space fascists. "Keep broadcasting the peaceful contact protocols," she ordered. "But bring our quantum shields to full power." Quietly, the Kryvax ships drew closer, their weapons clearly charged. They were apparently used to their demands being met with either immediate submission or futile resistance. What they weren't prepared for was the calm, measured response they received instead. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Pathfinder," she broadcast. "We acknowledge your presence and invite diplomatic discussion. We are an exploration vessel representing humanity, and we come seeking peaceful exchange of knowledge and culture." There was a pause, then more harsh language from the Kryvax ships. The translation came through clearer this time. "Primitive vessel, you will power down your systems and prepare for boarding. The Dominion will determine your species' place in the proper order." Sarah smiled slightly. "Mr. Harrison, are the quantum phase arrays charged?" Her tactical officer nodded. "Yes, Captain. They don't seem to have noticed the power buildup. Their sensors aren't detecting the quantum signature." "Very good." Sarah straightened in her chair. "Send another transmission, please. Text only this time." The message she composed was brief. "The proper order is about to change. We suggest you reconsider your approach." The Kryvax ships responded by launching what appeared to be boarding pods, sleek, fast vessels designed to penetrate ships' hulls and deposit invasion troops. They screamed across space toward the Pathfinder, their trajectory perfect, their purpose clear. They never reached their target. The quantum phase arrays activated, creating a field of altered spacetime around the Pathfinder. The boarding pods simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy and harmlessly dispersed as they hit the quantum barrier. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, there wasn't even a tremor. By the way, Sarah transmitted to the suddenly silent Kryvax vessels. We figured out quantum field manipulation about 20 years ago. We've been waiting to see who we'd meet out here, hoping for friends but preparing for exactly this sort of thing. Would you like to try that diplomatic discussion now? The Kryvax ships hung motionless in space, their weapons still charged but no longer seeming quite so threatening. Their response, when it came, was considerably more subdued. This is impossible. No emerging species has ever. Yeah, Sarah interrupted. We get that a lot. Now, about that discussion. We have some thoughts about your proper order that you might want to hear, starting with why it's about to become obsolete. As she settled back in her command chair, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, developing technologies and strategies that no one would expect from an emerging species. The Kryvax had clearly never encountered anyone who could challenge their assumptions about superiority. That was about to change. And somewhere in the vast network of stars that made up the Kryvax dominion, countless subjugated species were about to learn that the galaxy's balance of power was shifting. The proper order, indeed. The Kryvax High Command Chamber was a study in barely contained chaos. Admiral Veckrix, Supreme Commander of the Dominion's expansion fleet, watched in growing disbelief as the holographic replay showed their boarding pods simply vanishing against the human vessel's defenses. Impossible, he growled, his scaled skin shifting colors with agitation. No species at their development level should possess such technology. Our intelligence indicates they've only achieved FTL travel within the last 5 decades. Strategic Analyst First Class Mira, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's harsh lighting, moved forward. That admiral appears to be precisely the point. Our initial scans of their vessel showed relatively primitive technology, exactly what we expected. But deeper analysis reveals something far more sophisticated. The hologram shifted, displaying complex energy patterns surrounding the human ship. They wanted us to underestimate them. Every system on their ship has a quantum signature we've never encountered before. They've been masking their true capabilities. In the depths of space, aboard the UES Pathfinder, Captain Chen was having a very different kind of meeting. The ship's quantum-encrypted communication array had connected directly with United Earth Defense Command, and Fleet Admiral Helena Wong's holographic form stood before her. The Kryvax responded exactly as our simulations predicted, Sarah reported. They attempted immediate domination, failed spectacularly, and are now reassessing their entire worldview. Helena nodded, a grim smile playing across her features. 50 years of preparation, finally paying off. Ever since we discovered those ruins on Mars, the warnings left behind by the last civilization the Kryvax destroyed. We knew this day would come. They have no idea we found those ruins, Sarah added. No idea we spent half a century secretly preparing for them, reverse engineering ancient quantum technology and improving upon it. Their entire empire is built on the assumption that younger species are inherently inferior, an assumption we're about to thoroughly disprove, Helena said. Deploy Phase 2. Let's show them exactly what humanity has been hiding. Back in Kryvax space, alarm signals began blaring across their vast network of monitoring stations. Quantum signatures were appearing everywhere. Dozens, then hundreds of human vessels dropping their camouflage fields. Ships that had been silently mapping Kryvax space for years, gathering intelligence and positioning themselves for this moment. In the High Command Chamber, Admiral Veckrix watched in horror as the reports flooded in. How long have they been there? Mira's crystalline form pulsed with worried light. Based on these readings, years. They've had us under surveillance since before we knew they existed. And sir, they're not just warships. Look at these scans. The The holographic display shifted again, showing human vessels of various configurations making contact with subjugated worlds throughout Krevak space. But they weren't attacking. They were communicating, sharing information, offering hope. They're rallying our servant species, Vekrix realized, his scales now pale with shock, showing them it's possible to resist us. But why haven't they simply attacked? With this level of technology, they could cripple our empire in days. Because that's not their goal, Mira replied, her analytical mind racing ahead to the inevitable conclusion. They're not like us. They don't seek domination. They're offering something far more dangerous. Choice. Aboard the Pathfinder, Sarah Chen received the status updates with satisfaction. Across Krivak space, carefully positioned human ships were revealing themselves, showing conquered species that resistance wasn't futile after all. Quantum communication arrays were sharing information, breaking through centuries of propaganda and oppression. Status report from the Liberation Fleet, Captain, her communications officer announced. Quantum tech packages have been successfully delivered to resistance groups on 17 subjugated worlds. The Krivak's control systems are already failing on 12 of them. Sarah nodded. This was humanity's true hidden edge, not just their advanced technology, but their fundamental approach to civilization. Where the Krivaks sought to dominate, humanity had spent 50 years preparing to liberate. Where the Dominion demanded submission, Earth offered partnership. Send word to Admiral Wong, she ordered. Phase 2 is proceeding as planned. The Krivaks are about to learn that their proper order was built on a foundation of sand, and the tide is coming in. In the High Command Chamber, Admiral Vekrix watched helplessly as his empire began to unravel. The humans hadn't fired a single shot, yet they were winning a war he hadn't even known was being fought. A war of ideas, of hope, of possibility. And somewhere in the vast depths of space, ancient quantum sensors left behind by long-dead civilizations detected the power signature of humanity's ships. In their final moments, the civilization that left the warnings on Mars had hoped someone would find them, understand them, and be prepared. Humanity had done more than that. They had taken those warnings and turned them into a promise. Never again would the Krivak's dominion destroy another civilization. The galaxy was about to change, and the proper order was giving way to something far more interesting: freedom. The quantum space corridor between Krivak's battle fleets erupted with urgent communications. What had begun as a simple first contact with a seemingly primitive species had cascaded into a full-blown crisis. Throughout Dominion space, subjugated races were rising up, armed with human quantum technology that rendered Krivak's control systems useless. Supreme War Master Krell, his massive form dominating the command deck of the Dominion's flagship Eternal Dominance, had finally had enough. No more games, he snarled to his assembled commanders. These humans think they can destabilize our empire without consequences. Launch the Purge fleets. Every system showing signs of rebellion will be made an example of. But the humans had anticipated this too. Aboard the UES Hyperion, Fleet Commander Maya Rodriguez watched as the Krivak's Purge fleets emerged from FTL. Her battle group had been waiting for this moment, hidden in the quantum shadow of a gas giant. The massive human warship represented the pinnacle of Earth's military technology, a far cry from the exploratory facade of the Pathfinder. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Maya ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of the moment. Remember your training. We've simulated this battle 1,000 times. The human fleet decloaked simultaneously, their quantum drives singing with power. The Krivak ships, expecting to find helpless, rebellious worlds, instead found themselves facing the full might of humanity's hidden military. Tactical, deploy the QEM arrays, Maya commanded. The quantum entanglement manipulation arrays were humanity's masterstroke. Technology that could literally rewrite the laws of physics within a localized space. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Krivak ship's energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against quantum fields. Their shields flickered and died as the very principles they operated on were altered. And their faster-than-light drives, the pride of their technology, simply stopped responding. But Maya's orders weren't to destroy. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," she announced. "This is Fleet Commander Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. Your weapons are neutralized. Your drives are disabled. You have a choice to make." In the silence that followed, thousands of smaller ships emerged from quantum space, vessels crewed by members of the very species the Purge fleet had come to punish. But these ships were different now, upgraded with human technology, their crews trained and ready. "The age of the Dominion is over," Maya continued. "You can either adapt to a new reality or face irrelevance. We're not here to conquer you. We're here to end the very concept of conquest." On the bridge of the eternal dominance, War Master Krell watched in disbelief as his mighty Purge fleet hung helpless in space. The humans hadn't just prepared for this confrontation. They'd orchestrated it, turning it into a demonstration of not just their power, but their philosophy. "Impossible," he muttered. "The strength of the Dominion lies in our unity, our absolute control." "No," came a new voice, Captain Chen of the Pathfinder, her holographic form appearing on his bridge. "Your weakness lies in thinking that control equals strength. Real power comes from cooperation, from lifting others up rather than pushing them down." Across Krivak space, the scene was repeating itself. Purge fleets found themselves outmaneuvered and powerless. Rebellion forces, armed with human quantum technology, were dismantling centuries of oppression. But there was no wholesale slaughter, no revenge-fueled genocide. Instead, there was something the Krivaks had never expected: mercy. "We studied your history," Sarah continued, addressing not just Krell but all Krivaks commanders through quantum channels. "We know your species arose on a harsh world where domination meant survival. But you're not on that world anymore. The galaxy is vast enough for everyone to thrive, if we work together." In orbit around a dozen former Krivak slave worlds, human ships were already establishing quantum communication networks, sharing technology and knowledge. The liberation wasn't just about freedom from control. It was about freedom to grow, to learn, to become more. Maya watched from the Hyperion's bridge as the first Krivak ships began powering down their weapons. Not surrendering. Humanity wasn't interested in submissions, but acknowledging that change was inevitable. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "The turning point has been achieved. Phase 3 can begin." As the quantum messages raced across space, the true scope of humanity's plan was becoming clear. They hadn't spent 50 years preparing for war. They'd spent it preparing for peace, the hard way, the lasting way, by being ready to prove that cooperation was stronger than domination. In the depths of the eternal dominance, War Master Krell made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he ordered. "It's time we learned about this new way of thinking." The proper order wasn't just changing. It was evolving into something entirely new. And humanity, the species the Krivaks had dismissed as primitive, was leading the way. The vast chamber of the Galactic conclave buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 100 species gathered for the first time as equals. The historic meeting was taking place aboard Harmony Station, a massive human-built structure that served as a physical symbol of the new order emerging in the galaxy. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's chief xenodiplomat, stood at the central podium, her holographic displays showing the ongoing transformation across former Krivak space. "The Liberation Initiative enters its final phase," she announced, her voice carrying to all corners of the chamber. "Already, 87 formerly subjugated worlds have established independent governments. And yes, that includes 17 Krivaks worlds that have chosen to reject their empire's old ways." Former War Master Krell, now serving as the representative of the reformed Krivak systems, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The past months had forced his people to confront uncomfortable truths about their history. "And what of those who still resist?" he asked, his voice carrying a new note of humility. "We continue to show them a better way," Yuki replied. "Not through force, but through example." The holographic display shifted to show the latest operation of the Liberation Fleet. Human ships, now joined by vessels from dozens of allied species, were surrounding the last holdout of the Old Dominion. But instead of weapons, they carried hope. Aboard the UES Prometheus, Admiral Sarah Chen, recently promoted from her captain's role on the Pathfinder, watched as the combined fleet took position. The last remnants of the old Kryvax military had gathered here, around their throne world of Kryvax Prime, determined to maintain their fading empire. "All ships maintain quantum shields but do not power weapons," she ordered. "Begin broadcasting the Unity package." The Unity package was humanity's masterwork, not a weapon, but a compilation of evidence. It showed the prosperity of worlds that had joined the new alliance, the technological advances made possible through cooperation, the freedom and dignity that came with self-determination. Most importantly, it showed former Kryvax warriors and administrators finding purpose in creation rather than conquest. "They're responding," her communications officer reported. "Multiple ships are powering down their weapon systems." In the conclave chamber, the representatives watched the scene unfold through quantum feeds. Mira, the former Kryvax analyst who had been among the first to understand humanity's true strength, addressed the assembly. "I spent my career studying patterns of power," she said, her crystalline form gleaming. "The Old Dominion belief power flowed from the top down. Humanity showed us that real power flows in all directions, growing stronger through sharing rather than hoarding." The holographic displays showed more Kryvax ships standing down, their crews choosing transformation over destruction. But it wasn't surrender, it was evolution. "The Liberation Fleet never fired a shot," Yuki continued. "Its true weapons were truth, opportunity, and the fundamental human belief that every sentient being deserves the chance to choose their own path." On Kryvax Prime, the last holdouts of the old empire watched as their fleet began to disperse, not in defeat, but in acceptance of a new reality. The Liberation Fleet held position, patient and unwavering, offering a hand rather than raising a fist. Dr. Raj Patel, now serving as Earth's chief of Xenotechnology sharing, brought up new data on the holographic displays. "The quantum technology we developed has already been improved upon by cooperative research teams, including former Kryvax scientists," he reported. "When we share knowledge, everyone becomes stronger." Admiral Chen's voice came through the quantum feed, addressing both the conclave and the remaining Kryvax forces. "We remember the warnings we found on Mars," she said. "The last victims of the Old Dominion feared that no one would be strong enough to prevent their fate from befalling others. They underestimated humanity's greatest strength, our ability to unite, to lift each other up, to turn enemies into allies." The last Kryvax battleship powered down its weapons. Across the galaxy, quantum communication networks carried the news. The old empire was truly finished. But unlike empires of the past, it hadn't ended in fire and destruction. It had ended in transformation. In the conclave chamber, representatives from 100 worlds, former slaves and former masters, ancient species, and emerging civilizations, stood together. The Liberation Fleet had achieved its goal not through superior firepower, but through superior ideals. The real liberation, Yuki concluded, wasn't just freeing the subjugated from their chains. It was freeing everyone, including the Kryvax, from the very concept of domination. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation has begun. And in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity's ships maintain their vigilant watch, ready not to conquer, but to protect. Ready not to rule, but to serve. Ready to show any who would listen that the greatest power in the universe isn't the ability to destroy or dominate. It's the ability to create, to grow, and to change. 5 years after the dissolution of the Kryvax Dominion, the viewing platform of Harmony Station offered a spectacular view of history in the making. The first Galactic exhibition of United Progress was about to begin, showcasing technological and cultural achievements from hundreds of worlds working in cooperation. Admiral Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, stood beside former Warmaster Krell, watching as ships of all designs and origins arrived through quantum space. "Did you ever imagine this?" Krell asked, his once harsh voice now carrying notes of wonder. "When you first encountered our ships, did you dream it would lead here?" Sarah smiled, remembering that first contact. "We hoped. Everything we did was based on hope. Hope that understanding was possible, that change was possible. That's always been humanity's greatest strength. We don't just imagine better futures, we work to create them." Below them, in the station's vast exhibition halls, the results of that hope were on display. Former Kragax engineers worked alongside scientists from species they had once enslaved, creating technologies that benefited all. Cultural exchanges had led to new forms of art, music, and literature that combined traditions in ways never before imagined. Dr. Yuki Tanaka approached them, accompanied by a holographic delegation from a newly discovered civilization at the galaxy's edge. "They found our quantum beacons," she explained. "Another species taking their first steps into galactic society. But this time, they're finding friendship instead of conquest." The new species, crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns, had detected the quantum networks humanity had helped establish. Instead of fear or aggression, they found open channels of communication, invitations to join a community of equals. "The old me would have seen them as resources to be exploited," Krell admitted. "Now I see potential allies, new perspectives, new possibilities." In the primary research hub, Dr. Raj Patel was leading a mixed team of scientists in demonstrating their latest breakthrough. The quantum technology that had once given humanity its edge had evolved beyond recognition, improved by the combined insights of 100 species. "The barriers between quantum states aren't just physical," he explained to an attentive audience. "They're conceptual. When we learned to break down barriers between species, we got better at breaking down barriers between realities." The demonstration showed how the new quantum drives could fold space more efficiently than ever, making travel between the furthest reaches of the galaxy almost instantaneous. But more importantly, it showed how the technology had been developed through cooperation, each species contributing unique insights. Maya Rodriguez, now Fleet Commander of the United Galactic Peace Force, delivered her report to the assembled representatives. The former Liberation Fleet had transformed into something new, a cooperative force dedicated to exploration, rescue, and scientific research. "We maintain our readiness," she stated firmly. "But our strength comes from unity, not dominance. When we encounter new civilizations, we offer friendship first. The beacons we leave in unexplored space don't warn of conquest, they promise partnership." As the exhibition officially opened, Sarah found herself back on the viewing platform, watching the endless stream of ships arriving through quantum space. Each vessel represented a different species, a different culture, a different way of seeing the universe. Yet all were here together, drawn by the simple human idea that cooperation was stronger than conflict. "The proper order," she mused, remembering the Krivax's old philosophy. "We found it after all. Not in hierarchy or control, but in unity and free choice." Mira, her crystalline form now modified with quantum-enhanced communication abilities, joined them. "The patterns have changed," she observed. "Power no longer flows from the top down. It flows between us all, growing stronger with each connection." Below them, in one of the station's massive gathering halls, representatives from hundreds of worlds were attending the first performance of the United Galactic Symphony. Musicians from species that once fought each other now created harmony together, their different forms of music blending into something entirely new. "This is humanity's true legacy," Sarah said, watching the scene below. "Not that we defeated an empire, but that we helped create something better in its place. We showed the galaxy that the future doesn't have to be a repetition of the past." The quantum networks hummed with activity as knowledge and culture flowed freely between worlds. The old barriers were gone. not just the physical ones, but the mental ones that had kept species isolated and afraid. In their place was something new, a galactic civilization built on cooperation, understanding, and hope. As the exhibition's opening ceremony began, a message was broadcast across all quantum channels, in all languages, to all worlds. Welcome to the future. We build it together. And in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity's ships continued their eternal watch, not as conquerors or dominators, but as guardians of a new dawn. A dawn where the strongest force in the universe wasn't fear or power, but the simple human idea that everyone deserves a chance to reach for the stars. Together.